Craven. Paul is a member of OgilvyChange's Big Thinking panel and works in the area of behavioural finance, and I'm sure you'll find this educating, inspiring and certainly stimulating. Over to you, Paul.
Thank you, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I would like you, please, to use your imagination. I would like you to imagine you're peeling, or is it unpeeling, a banana. How do you hold it? And how do you peel it? Has anyone got a banana? Hang on. Don't worry, I have. Now, most people around the world that I've ever asked this question to have one way and one way only of opening a banana. And I suspect you would do. You would take it by the stalk, by the bottom end, and get the stalk, and kind of break it off near the stalk. And there's always a bit of gunk left in the end, and it's a bit messy. And it struck me, why do we do this? Because we have a perfectly good expert at eating bananas. We see them all the time. They're our hairy cousins. How do they open bananas? They don't do it that way. What they do is they turn it over. They take their hands, they just squeeze gently at the top there. And guess what? It opens absolutely beautifully and cleanly. And no mess, nothing wasted. Perfect. So why do we all open bananas wrongly? And it really comes on to my first point about assumptions. We all make assumptions. By the way, I challenge anybody not to have their banana next time and not show their friends that. Because you will. And indeed, I have a prize today to give out later, which is a banana, to try it yourself. So, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. Just about. So I want to talk about the mind, magic and markets. So I won't go too much into finance. That's my background, 27 years of working in the industry. But I'm a behavioural economics nut. I love this stuff. I think it's fantastic. I think it is the future. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the biases that we have, but I'll try and apply it to all of our industries, all the things we do. And I'll just single out two or three things in particular. We all know what behavioural economics is. It's the idea that classical models of thinking, that we're rational, that we make decisions consciously, are probably flawed, and actually we make lots of subconscious, sometimes irrational decisions, because that's the way we're built, and we've heard some good stuff this morning already on that topic. Just by being aware of our own biases makes them much less dangerous. That's my key point, being aware of them. I don't think you can get rid of a lot of your biases, because they're hardwired over 1, 2, 3 million years. But if you're aware of them, you take the sting out of the tail. Just to give you a little glimpse into my world, the world of finance and economics, interestingly, only last year, the Nobel Prize for Economics was awarded to 3 different economists. Now, the two I want to focus on are Eugene Fama and Robert Shiller. And they were given their awards this year for their services to economics. And interestingly, it caused a lot of debate, because they are at two opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to understanding how markets work. And both are brilliant, by the way, so I'm not criticizing either of them. But Farmer comes from the school that says investors are pretty rational, markets can be pretty efficient, and it's hard to forecast returns. There's a bit of a random walk involved with markets, financial markets. Shiller, on the other hand, is a great believer in animal spirits. He believes we do have these biases, that actually things like bubbles prove that we don't always behave rationally. And I was very taken by a comment that Shiller made when he met Farmer, when they came to their prizes, and he read an article about it afterwards in the paper. And he said, I was the most willing of the three of us to incorporate ideas about non-rational or irrational behaviour from other social sciences. Psychology, sociology, political science, and anthropology. And I think, again, what we've heard this morning and what we're going to hear this afternoon will bear that out. There's lots of inputs that help us understand the human brain better. We are not just rational, conscious creatures. I don't think I need to tell you in this room about System 1 and System 2. Daniel Kahneman's written a brilliant book about it. The idea we have a fast, reactive, instinctive system, System 1, unconscious, influenced by emotions and memories. We use that most of the time, 90% perhaps. 10% of the time, we do actually try and think slowly using our cortex, and we do genuinely analyze, look at the data, and work things out. And the point, as Kahneman points out, you cannot turn System 1 off. So this is really about awareness. You can't go through your life all day using System 2. There isn't time in the day. You have to make assumptions, back to that point. I don't know what you thought when you first saw me today. I don't know, you may have looked to see my blue handkerchief or my tie. You may have thought his eyesight's not very good, he can't see. But you haven't got time to analyse it. And indeed, nor should you, because some of those assumptions may be wrong. I mean, let me show you, for example. I don't need glasses or lenses. Lennon, peace. We have to make assumptions in the day. And I love this example. Now, what do most people do, particularly men, if they walk past in a busy crowd a sign that says, pickpockets operate in this area? What do most men do? I've stood by these signs. Trust me, 90% of men go, oh. Now, where would you stand if you were a pickpocket, looking to find out where the easy pockets are to be picked? Again, your System 1 starts tapping your pockets. System 2 would say, if you use it, I shouldn't tap my pockets around here, it could be dangerous. And I'm told that where they've taken these signs down, pickpocketing incidents fall. Biases, we've got social biases, we've got decision-making biases, we have probability and belief biases, I'll talk about those in particular, and memory biases. And I want to start off with an advertising campaign I saw. It's a flossing campaign, very appropriate for Valentine's Day. Two beautiful people, let's call them Abby and Jeff. And as you can see, well, they're posing for a photograph, and flossing campaign suggests that they should have flossed. Here's two more. Looks like Neil and Monique to me. Again, you can see pretty clearly, you need to floss. Gary and Louise, you need to floss. It's very easy to spot, isn't it? And this was a big campaign a few years ago. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, what was the point of the campaign? That if you have something in your teeth, you can't not miss it. You will see it. But there was something wrong in each of those three pictures, very wrong. Can you see what's wrong with that picture? He has one ear. This one? An extra finger. My favourite, this is my favourite, Jeff and Abby. There's got a magical arm there, typical Jeff. Anyway, so you see the point, and what this is called inattentional blindness. And Mac and Rock did a lot of work on this. How much of the world do we actually pay attention to constantly? And the answer is not a lot. Inattention all but eliminates conscious experience. And as a magician, as someone who does magic in their spare time, I always hear this phrase, the hand is quicker than the eye. But it'd be more accurate to say the hand is quicker than the brain, because you just can't process, you're just not aware enough. I mean, I started off wearing a blue handkerchief, for example. That's what magicians call misdirection. And it's a cognitive illusion. So, let me move on. Luck versus skill. Illusions of luck, illusions of skill. In my business as a coach these days, I'm always trying to find out, do people understand what skill is? Does an investor realize, can he actually even define skill? Can he or she even define skill? And if so, how good are they? And, of course, you can be coached to become more skillful. Interestingly, if I give you a continuum, if you think about roulette as being pure luck and chess being pure skill, where do you and your business lie on that continuum? And one thing I found is that we all think, well, hard work and process and everything else is a very good thing to have and do, and if we get the success we deserve, we call that skill. If we get a bad break, we think we're unlucky. And one of the hard things we have to do in our lives is looking at results, looking at the outcomes, and determining whether it was luck or skill, or a combination of both. And the problem with the human mind is it's a very bad teacher. Memory is a very bad teacher, because we tend to judge things by the results, not by the process. And I put to you that it's a very important part of our sort of raison d'etre in behavioural economics is to understand where luck and skill come in. So let's just have a quick look at some biases. Let me talk about probability biases first of all, and you may be familiar with some of those examples there. Let me start off with a problem relating to maps. This is a map of the points where all the V2 and V1 bombs dropped during 1943 and 1944. So 44 and 45. And when people tried to analyse where those bombs had fallen, they came up with ideas and theories. And the theory was, well, maybe they've got precision bombing. Maybe these things are quite accurate at the time. Because they all seem to be landing, don't they, by the Thames, by the bridges, by the factories down there, by the boats. And in fact, when you start drawing the quadrants, it looks pretty clear that they are indeed aiming particularly at that bottom right-hand quadrant. And once you get that idea and you see that pattern, people like patterns, it's very hard not to see that pattern. Add in a bit of confirmatory bias. Find some reasons why that should be happening. So I already mentioned they're bombing certain areas like the bridges or the factories. Add in other sorts of confirmatory bias. Try this one. When they looked at the top right-hand quadrant where only 4 bombs dropped, do you know what the theory was? That the enemy spies were living in that quadrant. Confirmatory bias, looking for reasons. Now, there is the best ever line ever written on confirmatory bias. It comes from Simon and Garfunkel or Paul Simon. I work with a charity called the Dan Ely Foundation, that's E-L-E-Y, and I was bet £50 that I wouldn't dare to sing that line for the charity. Here we go. Still a man hears what he wants to hear and disregards the rest. £50, Dan. So, back to the bombs. They look like they're aimed at the bottom right-hand quadrant. They are, aren't they? Along came somebody, quite smart, said, yeah, I like the quadrant idea. It tells you a lot. What happens if we draw the quadrants like this? Just by reassembling the way those right-angle quadrants are drawn, you end up showing that actually it's a pretty random spread of bombs being dropped. And again, this sort of illusion, the illusion of correlation, it's known as the clustering illusion. It's very, very common in everything we do. We try and find patterns. In my industry, there's lots of good work, there's lots of great skillful investment managers, but sometimes I see things that make me laugh, make me smile, because they're clearly a bit silly. Now, the next slide I will show you is deliberately designed to be silly. It's not a serious chart. I found it on the internet. A financial company decided they could predict where markets were going to go over the next few years. And they found what looked like a perfect correlation. And that correlation was how tall the chairman of the US Federal Reserve was. Tall chairman, bring good returns. Smaller chairman, lesser returns. And let me show you the chart. Now you think about it, they've got loads of data over many years, and obviously if you can plot a straight line between them, that's a correlation. There we go. So, Volcker, very tall, great returns, over 6.5 foot. Greenspan, 6 foot, pretty good returns. Bernanke, not quite as tall, low returns. And they've just appointed little Janet Yellen. We're looking at negative returns, guys, according to the correlation chart. Now, that's obviously a bit of nonsense. But I assure you, I've seen things over the last 27 years where people come up with correlations, they think they have the answer, and actually it's nothing more than that. Sometimes when you discover a good correlation, it breaks down fairly quickly thereafter. What sort of things can we do about this? Well, just very quickly, I would say that if you have various biases, you should always consider the alternatives. Play a devil's advocate. Some of the best investment ideas I've ever seen have come from meetings where someone has taken the other side deliberately and flushed out lots of good ideas by doing so. They've stopped there being a consensus of opinion early on. And playing a devil's advocate role is a very important one. Decision biases. I go back to this idea of system 1, system 2. Again, if you've got time to ask yourself, am I using my system 1 here for this big decision? Or am I actually thinking about it, analysing it? System 2, there's more chance of getting a better answer. Sometimes your hunch is right, by the way. System 1, it can be absolutely spot on, but worth looking at. Probability biases. Constantly look at this idea of skill versus luck. And finally, hindsight bias. Memory's a poor teacher. Why not keep a diary of your decisions and look back on them? Rather than what normally happens is you see if it works, and then you say it's a good or bad decision. And those two are not necessarily the same thing over the long term. So, I now want to test the wisdom of this crowd, please. Now, I know some of you may have seen this before. Please don't say anything. Please don't say anything to your neighbour. And please don't call out. I want to see if there's a Warren Buffett in this room. Because if there is, I'll give you my money. Or at least a banana. I'm going to show you a share price movement, and I want you to predict where it's going to go next. So I'll start you off with this one here. I'm not going to give you the scale. I'm not going to give you the time scale or indeed the y-axis scale. Now, I'm going to have to ask you to be a bit interactive here. Would everyone please stand up? Now, if you think, what I'll do is I'll push that chart forward by about half the distance again, okay? If you think that chart is going to go up, will you put your hands in the air? If you think the chart's going to go down, put your hands down by your side. If you get it right, you stay standing. Okay, so what I understand? Chart higher, hands in the air. Chart lower, by your side. If you get it right, stay standing. So here we go. So please vote there. Does it go higher or lower from there? Okay, we've got a good cross-section of God. If you get it right, please stay standing. It goes, wait for it, higher. So those who said lower, please sit down. That's knocked out half the room. Good. Same question. Is it going to go higher or lower over the next period? Hands up for higher, hands down for lower. Everyone voted? Good. There's the answer. Down lower. How many have we got left? A few? Good. Next one, high or low? Everyone voted? Oh. Sit down, please. We've got a few people still playing. Is there a Warren Buffett out there? Next move, please, high or lower? Bang! So we have a few potential winners. Right, okay, a bit too many. Let's just ask. No one call out. Vote. What happens next? High or lower? I can see a higher over there, rest is there. Ladies and gentlemen, what happens next? Brisbane. This is a map of Australia. Now, what is my serious point there? That we're all kind of fooled by randomness. We see patterns. We think we've got skill. Remember that, skill versus... It's a game of luck, this particular one. And again, I think there are plenty of skilled investment managers out there, people I trust with my money. But you need to see long-term results and you need to see a good process. Those are the two things I look for. And indeed, those are things I try and coach people to do and to show. Often you can fool yourself, and I apologize to those who are standing up near the end. You think, well, this is quite a good game, I'm quite good at this. And you actually fool yourself, and you fool yourself by randomness. So you need long-term consistency and a good process. And I would apply that to my industry. I suspect you'd apply it to yours as well. And indeed, I'd even apply that to magic. So to sum up, just being aware of your biases, just being aware of them, makes them much less dangerous. It's hard to be aware. It takes a lot of energy. It's using System 2, but it can help. Am I using System 1 or System 2? A good question to ask yourself time and time again. Am I thinking quickly, instinctively? It could be right. Or am I actually trying to analyze consciously? And finally, this idea of skill versus luck. I think it's a fantastic concept. There's a brilliant book by a guy called Michael Mabusin on it, if those are interested. He talks about luck and skill, luck and skill in sport, business and investment. It's a great book. Never just judge a decision by its outcome. So challenge your assumptions. I started off with a blue handkerchief. I went to a red handkerchief. And I finish with a banana-coloured handkerchief. Winston Churchill, the empires of the future are the empires of the mind. Thank you very much.